In this lesson, we'll finish up our color texture by painting the abdomen of our creature. So I want to add a little bit of detail to this area, which we've sort of defined here as a different color, but I want to add some sort of photographic detail to this area. So let's do the same thing that we've done on some of these other areas. And let's go into texture. You can see our color texture here as it currently stands. And here's the abdomen area that we want to add some detail to. Let's go ahead under File and Open Texture. And in our project files, let's choose this Stone 115 file. And we'll go ahead and open that up. So it gives us some nice sort of striated features here that we can use, I think, for our abdomen. Let's go ahead and just select that whole thing. Let's copy it by hitting Control-C on your keyboard. And then let's go into our view. And I'm going to come in here and let's actually go ahead and jump back to our color texture. And I want to create a new layer, and we'll call this something like abdomen. And jump back into our 3D view. Now let's turn on projection, and let's paste our image, and then we'll use the transform bitmap to scale it down a little bit. Let's go ahead and scale this down a bit until we get it something a little bit more manageable. I'm going to squeeze it in a little bit horizontally. Okay, and let's go ahead and squeeze this down a little bit more, and I'm actually going to rotate it a little bit as well because these are kind of at an angle, and so I'm going to rotate this just a little bit counterclockwise. So something like that. Let's go ahead with our eraser. Grab our eraser. We'll say yes, we want to transform that layer. I'm going to get a larger size for my eraser, and then I'm just going to start erasing the areas that I don't want here on our projection layer. So we'll go ahead and erase all that detail that's coming across the legs and down onto these little arms. Okay, so we can get most of it here. And we can go ahead and apply that projection. Let's turn off our projection. And now you can see that here. Well, let's go ahead and see what we can do as far as the blending and the color. So we can play around with the color and blending. We already have the color underneath. I don't really like multiply, but I'm going to go ahead and just take the visibility down a little bit and then see what we can do with some adjustments to that layer itself. So before I do that, I want to continue with the erasing, this time just erasing from the layer itself. So let me get a little bit of a smaller brush here, and then we can just come in and erase some of that detail out from this particular layer, just so it's only affecting that abdomen area that we want it to show on right there. So let me go ahead and finish erasing around the sides and just kind of getting this all cleaned up. And once we have that cleaned up, you can see I'm still missing a little bit of that detail down here. So what we can do is go back and use our clone to paint that through, paint it back in. All right, so let's take that abdomen layer and let's go to Filter, and let's actually do color correction, and let's do a hue saturation. So I want to go ahead and darken it up a little bit, and then we can play around with the hue. So if you wanted to make it, put a little bit more blue, I think I want a little bit more of that kind of yellowish green in there. Make it a little bit more saturated. That's starting to look a little bit closer to what I want. And then we can maybe darken it up a little bit. Okay. Now we can also come in and start to use dodge and burn, just as you would in Photoshop, to sort of darken up certain areas. So we've got the abdomen layer still selected. So we can come down here and you can see that this is dodge and this is burn. So I want to go ahead and use burn, and let me set the size a little bit larger. Okay. And then I can come in and sort of darken up these areas right underneath the lines there, those lips. And you can set your exposure. Right now it's set to shadows as well. I think I'm going to just switch that to midtones. and just kind of darken up some of those areas. Maybe coming down a little bit more into the rest of this. Now this is only affecting the detail that we just projected, so not necessarily even much of the color underneath it, just because a lot of that color is coming in from that background. So you can see if I come down here to the background, and I can start to come in and burn some of that color through. So if we come into the abdomen here, you can kind of see that I'm starting to burn that in. Now we can also come in with dodge and do the same thing on some of these lower areas. We come back to the abdomen and start to dodge some of these areas out. So just lightening up the area. So almost creating kind of an overlap, kind of an effect to where it's lighter on the bottom, darker at the top where it's sort of underneath the rest of it, and just creating a little bit of variation. All right. So I think that looks pretty good. You can spend as much time on this as you want to, detailing that and adding your own touches, and we really like to see that. So if you've got your own creature that you're creating, make sure to post that on our forums. We'll take a look at it. We always love to see what you guys do with the training. Okay, so once you've got the color detailed for the abdomen, if you want to go in and tweak any other elements of your texture, you're free to do that. If you want to take some of the scales and tweak maybe the visibility, the blending modes, or the visibility percentage, you can do that as well. But I think we're pretty close to being done with what we're doing here as far as the texture goes. So in the next lesson, let's start to take a look at how we can take the color texture that we created and actually create bump maps and specular maps from the detail that we've already built. So we'll go ahead and take a look at that in the next lesson.